Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, I pulled a story straight from the depths of Reddit. The kind of story that starts slow and then refuses to let go. It's unsettling, personal, and once you hear it, you won't forget it. So get comfortable, turn the lights down, and let's begin. I found my girlfriend's Reddit account. I wish I never looked. My name is Mark, and up until 3 nights ago, I thought I was the luckiest guy in Chicago. I'm 30. I work in architectural design, and I live with Chloe. She's everything. She's a pediatric nurse. She has a laugh that sounds like wind chimes, and she's the kind of person who leaves sticky notes on the bathroom mirror, telling me to have a good day. We've been together for 4 years. We were looking at rings. Then came Tuesday night. Chloe was at a bachelorette party for one of her nursing friends, and I was home alone with a cold beer and her old iPad. My laptop had fried its motherboard that afternoon, and I just needed to check some emails. The iPad was ancient, slow as a turtle, and half the apps were logged into accounts she hadn't used in years. I went to close a stray browser tab when the Reddit app caught my eye. It was already open. She must have been scrolling through it before she left. I should have closed it. Every fiber of my good boyfriend upbringing told me to just swipe up and move on, but a username at the top of the screen caught my eye. The quiet one _ 92. 92 was her birth year, and Chloe was, by all accounts, the quietest, most gentle person I knew. I felt a little surge of curiosity, nothing malicious, just a desire to see what my future wife found interesting. Was she into gardening? Wedding planning? I tapped on the profile. My heart did a weird little skip when I saw her recent comments. They weren't in r/nursing or r/bridal. They were in a sub called r/True Dark Confessions. The first comment I read felt like a bucket of ice water dumped over my head. He thinks he's the first. The comment read, he thinks he's the only one who survived. It's been 3 years, and he still hasn't noticed that the locks on the basement door were changed from the outside. I watch him sleep, and I wonder how much longer I can keep the act up. I sat there. The iPad felt suddenly heavy in my hands. The he in the post. It had to be me. We've lived in our house for 3 years, and there was a weird thing with the basement locks. When we moved in, something she'd laughed off as old house quirks. I scrolled down. My thumb was trembling. There were hundreds of posts. Day 1460. Another post said, dated just last week. The engagement talk started today. I had to fake a tear. It's getting harder to remember which version of Chloe I'm supposed to be today. Sometimes I look at Mark, and I want to tell him what happened to the girl he actually met in that coffee shop in 2022. But then I remember why I'm here. The room started to spin. I felt a cold sweat breaking out across my forehead. What did she mean? The girl he actually met? I met Chloe at a Starbucks on 5th. We talked about books. We fell in love. I clicked on a post she'd written a month ago, a long-form story with thousands of upvotes. How to Erase a Life. The title read. I started reading, and the deeper I went, the more the world I knew began to crumble. She described, in clinical, terrifying detail, how she had moved to Chicago under a false name, how she had studied Mark for months before accidentally spilling her latte on him, how she had mimicked my favorite movies, my political views, even my favorite type of pizza, just to become the perfect woman. He's the perfect host. The post concluded, safe, boring, respected. Nobody looks for a ghost when she's standing next to a man like him. But the real Chloe, she's still under the floorboards of that cabin in Maine, and sometimes, in the middle of the night, I can still hear her screaming. A key turned in the front door. Mark? Honey, I'm home. The girls were so crazy. The voice was bright. It was sweet. It was the wind chime laugh I had loved for 4 years. I looked at the iPad, then at the bedroom door. I heard her footsteps on the stairs. Light, rhythmic, familiar. I didn't have time to hide the device. I didn't have time to process the horror. I just shoved the iPad under my pillow and grabbed a book. My heart was hammering so hard, I thought it might burst. Through my ribs, the door opened. Chloe stood there, her cheeks flushed from the wine, her hair slightly messy. She looked beautiful. She looked perfect. "Miss me?" she asked, leaning in to kiss my forehead. Her skin felt like ice. "You're pale, Mark," she said softly. "Are you feeling okay?" Chloe's hand lingered on my cheek. Her eyes, those big, soulful brown eyes I'd spent years staring into, searched my face. For the first time, I didn't see love in them. I saw a hunter checking for a twitch in the grass. "Just a headache," I managed to say. My voice sounded like it was coming from a mile away. "Too much screen time, I guess." "Oh, poor baby," she cooed, smoothing my hair. "Let me get you some water and some aspirin. You stay right here." She turned and headed toward the kitchen. I waited until I heard the tap running. Then, I pulled the iPad out from under the pillow. My hand was shaking so badly, I almost dropped it. I had to find that post again. I had to see if it was a sick joke, some kind of twisted, creative writing exercise. People do that on Reddit, right? They role-play horror stories. For karma. I scroll back to the post titled, "How to Erase a Life." I skipped past the part about the coffee shop and looked for the mention of a cabin. The main property, the post read, is under a shell company, deep in the woods of Piscataquis County. Most people think it's abandoned. They don't know about the root cellar. They don't know that the girl who grew up there, the girl with the birthmark on her shoulder and the scholarship to Juilliard, never made it to her first semester. A cold realization hit me. Chloe had a birthmark on her left shoulder. It was shaped like a small crescent moon. She told me she loved it because it made her unique. But then I remembered something else, something small, something boring. 2 years ago, we were looking through her old college photos. She told me she went to a small state school in Michigan, but when I asked to see her diploma, she laughed and said it was in storage. Back home, I never pushed it. Why would I? I looked at the girl in the kitchen doorway. She was holding a glass of water and 2 white pills. She was smiling. "Here you go, honey," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. I took the pills. My throat felt like it was lined with sandpaper. I swallowed them, dry. "Chloe," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "Do you ever miss Maine?" The glass in her hand didn't shatter. She didn't gasp, but for a split second, the smile on her face didn't reach her eyes. It was like a mask had slipped just a millimeter. "Maine?" she asked, tilting her head. "Mark, you know I've never lived in Maine. I'm a Michigan girl, through and through." "Why would you ask that?" "I don't know," I lied, looking down at my lap. "I saw a travel documentary today. Just made me think of you, for some reason. The woods, the quiet. Well, maybe we should go sometime," she said. Her voice dropped back into that sweet melodic tone. "Just the 2 of us. No phones, no distractions, just peace." She kissed me on the cheek and went to get ready for bed. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the floorboards of our basement. I thought about the post where she mentioned the locks being changed from the outside. Around 3 a.m., I heard her breathing turn deep and rhythmic. She was out. I crept out of bed. My heart thumped, a frantic rhythm, against my ribs. I grabbed a flashlight from the junk drawer and headed for the basement door. The handle felt freezing. I turned it, slowly, praying it wouldn't creak. The basement was cold. It smelled of damp earth and old cardboard boxes. I walked to the far corner, near the water heater, where the old wooden floorboards met the concrete foundation. I knelt down. The beam of the flashlight shook in my hand. I started tapping. Thud, thud, thud. It all sounded solid. A wave of relief washed over me. "It's just a story," I told myself. "She's just a weirdo who writes horror fiction on the internet. It's a hobby." Then I saw it. Hidden behind a stack of winter tires was a single board that didn't quite line up. It was slightly raised, the nails rusted and loose. I pulled a flathead screwdriver from my pocket. I grabbed it. On my way down, I wedged it into the gap. I pried the board up with a sickening groan of wood. I shone the light into the dark cavity beneath the floor. It wasn't a body. It was a box, a small metal firebox. I pulled it out and flipped the latch. Inside was a stack of envelopes, a burner phone, and a driver's license. I picked up the license. The name on the card was Sarah Jenkins. The birth year was 1992, but the face wasn't Chloe's. It was a girl with blonde hair and a Juilliard sweatshirt. Beneath the license was a photograph. It was a picture of the Chloe I knew standing in a coffee shop, watching the girl in the Juilliard sweatshirt from across the room. On the back of the photo, written in the neat, loopy handwriting I'd seen on 1,000 sticky notes, were 3 words: Target acquired, 2022. I heard a soft click behind me. The basement light flickered on. I turned around. The metal box still in my hands. Chloe was standing on the bottom step. She wasn't wearing her pajamas anymore. She was wearing her nurse's scrubs. She was holding a heavy glass vase from the living room. "You always were too curious. For your own good, Mark," she said. The wind chime laugh was gone. Her voice was flat, cold, utterly dead. "I really wished you'd never looked." The basement light felt too bright. It stung my eyes as I stared at the woman I thought I loved. She didn't look like a nurse anymore. She looked like a glitch in the universe. The vase in her hand was heavy, thick, leaded crystal. She held it with a casual, practiced grip that made my stomach lurch. "Who are you?" I whispered. My voice felt like it was being pulled through a straw. "Where's the girl from the license? Where is Sarah?" She took a slow, deliberate step off the last stair. "Sarah was weak, Mark," she said. "She had everything: the talent, the scholarship, the perfect future, and she spent all her time crying about how hard it was. She didn't deserve that life. She didn't appreciate the silence of a house like this. So I took it. I took the burden off her hands." "You killed her," I said. The words finally clicked into place. "In Maine, at the cabin." She shrugged, a small, terrifyingly normal movement. I gave her what she wanted: peace. And in return, she gave me a name, a history, a chance to be someone people don't look at twice. Do you have any idea how hard it is to disappear in this world, Mark? You need a host. You need someone stable. Someone like you." She started walking toward me, circling a stack of winter tires. I backed up. My heels hit the cold concrete of the foundation. I was trapped. The only exit was the stairs, and she was blocking them. "I loved you," I said. A sob broke through my voice. The last 4 years, they were real to me. The trips, the birthdays, the talks about our kids. Was any of that real for you? She paused, and for a second, a flicker of something that looked like genuine pity crossed her face. "You were the best version of the Chloe project, Mark. I actually liked the person I became when I was with you. You're kind, you're predictable, and you made me feel safe. But that's the problem with projects. Eventually, you finish them." She lunged. She was faster than I expected. I swung the metal firebox like a shield. The crystal vase shattered against the lid. Glass exploded across the basement. The impact jarred my arm all the way to the shoulder. I didn't wait. I shoved the box into her chest. She slammed back against the water heater. I bolted for the stairs. I scrambled up the wooden steps. My lungs screamed. I burst into the kitchen and fumbled for my phone on the counter. It wasn't there. Looking for this, she was already behind me. I don't know how. She got up the stairs so fast. She stood by the island, my phone in one hand, a kitchen knife in the other. Her scrubs were dusty from a basement floor. Her expression was eerily calm. "I've spent 4 years learning your habits, Mark," she said. Her voice dropped to a low, soothing hum. "I know you haven't backed up your cloud in weeks. I know you haven't told anyone about the Reddit account. If you die tonight, It's just a tragic accident, a break-in, a grieving girlfriend left behind to collect the insurance. People will know. I gasped. I backed toward the front door. The neighbors saw you come home. They saw Chloe come home. She corrected. And Chloe is a saint. She's a pediatric nurse. Who are they going to believe? A dead man? Or the woman who tried to save him? She raised the knife. I reached for the front door handle. My fingers slipped on the cold metal. I pulled. The bolt didn't budge. I looked down. The deadbolt wasn't just locked. The key had been snapped off inside the cylinder. She had been planning this. Since the moment she saw the iPad under my pillow, she hadn't gone to get aspirin. She had gone to make sure I could never leave. Mark, she whispered. She stepped into the hallway. Don't make this messy. I really did like you. I looked at the window next to the door. Small, reinforced glass. I looked back at her. The woman I was going to marry was gone. There was only a hollowed-out shell, a ghost that had lived in my house for 4 years, waiting for the right moment to turn me into a ghost. 2. I grabbed the heavy coat rack by the door, and I swung it with everything I had. The coat rack hit her shoulder with a sickening thud, the heavy oak vibrating in my hands like a tuning fork. She didn't scream. She didn't even groan. She just staggered back, her eyes wide, with a cold, analytical shock, as if she were surprised I actually had the spine to hit her. I didn't wait for her to find her footing. I turned to the living room window, the big double-pane glass that looked out onto our quiet suburban street. I grabbed a heavy bronze lamp from the side table and swung it with a primal roar. The glass didn't just break, it exploded, raining crystal shards onto the mulch outside. I didn't care about the cuts on my arms. I didn't care about the blood. I just needed out. I dove through the frame, the jagged edges of the remaining glass, catching on my shirt, tearing at my skin. I hit the frozen ground outside with a force that knocked the wind out of me. I lay there for a second, gasping, the cold Chicago air stinging my lungs. Behind me, I heard her. She wasn't running. She was stepping through the broken window with the calm, methodical grace of a predator who knows the prey has nowhere to go. Mark, she called out. Her voice was terrifyingly sweet again, the nurse persona sliding back into place like a well-oiled machine. You're bleeding, honey. You need to come back inside. You're going to go into shock. I scrambled to my feet, my legs feeling like jelly. I ran. I didn't head for the neighbors. I knew her. If I knocked on Mrs. Gable's door, Chloe would just stand there, weeping, telling her I had a psychotic break. She'd have me drugged and back in that house before the police even arrived. I ran for my car. I fumbled for the keys in my pocket. My fingers were slick with blood, and I dropped them twice in the snow. Just as I gripped the fob and hit the unlock button, I felt a hand on my collar. She didn't stab me. She tackled me. We hit the asphalt of the driveway, and the knife skittered away onto my SUV. She was on top of me in an instant, her fingers digging into the wounds on my arms. You really think you're the first person to try and run from me? She whispered into my ear, her breath warm against my freezing skin. Sarah tried. The boy in Portland tried. You're all the same. You think you're special, but you're just a house I'm living in for a while. I looked up at her, at the woman I had planned to spend my life with. In the moonlight, her face looked like a mask that was finally peeling off. The beauty was there, but the humanity was gone. The police, the iPad. I wheezed, my vision starting to tunnel. It's all on Reddit. Everyone will know. She laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. Oh, Mark, I didn't use the house Wi-Fi for that account. And the iPad? I've been remotely wiping it since I stood in the kitchen. By the time anyone looks at it, it'll be factory reset. You're just a man who had a breakdown and tried to kill his girlfriend before jumping through a window. She reached for a heavy stone from our garden border, raising it high above her head. I closed my eyes, waiting for the end. I thought of my mom. I thought of the real Sarah Jenkins. I thought of the 4 years I had wasted loving a ghost. Whoop, whoop. The sudden burst of a siren, and the splash of red and blue lights against the garage door made her freeze. "Drop the rock. Hands in the air. Do it now." It was Officer Miller. He lived 3 houses down. He'd been coming home from a late shift and saw the broken window and the struggle in the driveway. Chloe didn't panic. In a move that still haunts my dreams, she immediately dropped the stone, slumped over my body, and started wailing. "Officer, help, please. He's lost his mind. He's trying to kill himself." For a second, I thought it was over. I thought she'd won. I lay there, bleeding and broken, watching Miller approach with his weapon drawn, his face full of concern for her. But then, Miller looked at the ground. He looked at the metal firebox that had fallen out of my jacket when I jumped through the window. It was lying open in the snow. The driver's license of Sarah Jenkins was staring up at him, and next to it, the burner phone, which had been knocked into emergency mode, was glowing. On the screen of the burner phone was a draft of a text message. "Unsent. If you're reading this, the host is on to me. Moving to the main location. Prepare the cellar." Miller looked from the phone to the license to the woman sobbing on my chest. He wasn't a detective, but he wasn't an idiot. He saw the snapped key in the front door lock through the broken window. He saw the cold, calculated way she was holding me down. "Ma'am," Miller said, his voice dropping an octave. "Step away from him. Now." The aftermath was a blur. Hospitals, police stations, lawyers. They never found Chloe's real name. Even after months of investigation, the woman I lived with remained a cipher. Her fingerprints didn't match any database. Her DNA didn't bring up any relatives. She was a true ghost, someone who had spent her entire life stealing the identities of girls who wouldn't be missed. They found Sarah Jenkins' remains in the root cellar of that cabin in Maine, just like the Reddit post said, and they found 2 others, a girl from Portland, a student from Arizona. Each one had been erased, so this woman could live a few years of a normal, boring life. I moved out of the city. I couldn't handle the sound of wind chimes or the smell of the perfume she used to wear. I live in a small apartment now, with 3 different locks on the door, and no mirrors. I thought I was safe. I thought the nightmare ended when they put her in that high-security psychiatric wing pending trial. But last night, I was scrolling through Reddit. I couldn't help myself. I was looking for closure. I went to r/True Dark Confessions, hoping to see the account had been banned. The account, u/thequiet1_92 was gone. But there was a new post, made 2 hours ago, in a different sub. The new room is small, the post read. "The walls are white, and the nurses are so kind. They think I'm broken. They think I'm Sarah. They don't realize that I've already found a new host. She's a night nurse named Kelly. She has a beautiful house, a cat, and a fiancé who works in architectural design. I've started learning her laugh. I think I'll be out of here by Christmas." I looked at the timestamp. Then I looked at the name of the user. u/markisnext_26. I haven't slept since. Every time I hear a floorboard creak or the sound of a key turning in a neighbor's door, I wonder if she's standing outside, watching the light under my door, waiting for me to become a ghost too. I wish I had never looked at that iPad. But more than that, I wish I had never met her at all. That was the chilling conclusion. 2, I found my girlfriend's Reddit account. It's a terrifying reminder that we never truly know the people we share our lives with. Sometimes, the person you love is just a mask for something much darker. What would you do if you found out your partner was a total stranger? Would you run, or would you try to save them? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs a reason to stay off Reddit tonight. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dive horror and real life nightmares. Stay safe, watch your back, and whatever you do, don't look under the floorboards.